The Prepper Podcast, episode 39.
You've got to know whether or not their president's a crook.
The American people would never vote for socialism. He said, under the name of liberalism, the American people will adopt every fragment of the socialist program.
The Prepper Podcast is an up-to-date survival podcast based on military, wilderness, and modern-day survival and may be found at theprepperpodcast.com. I am Ken Jensen, and this is the podcast about everything survival. My goal is to teach you strategies on self-reliance and to develop survival skills and critical thinking in everyone, resulting in a more resilient and more enjoyable life. This is episode 39, and today's going to be another good episode. I'm going to discuss realistic ideas on how you can use your battery banks and alternative energy sources to power things up. These are going to be more realistic ideas on what can be done. We have already discussed lowering your power consumption and energy use, considering your alternative power options, different alternative energy sources, viable and non-viable, what you need to know about batteries and battery banks, everything you need to know about inverters, and many other items that we need to create a battery bank. So this is going to be one of the last episode or two. All right, episode 40 may be something else. I'm not sure yet, but I'm wrapping this thing up as we speak. It's either going to be this episode or the next episode that's going to wrap things up. So I hope you guys have been enjoying the mini series that I've been doing on the Prepper Podcast about alternative energy. Let me know and share all that information for everybody. The show notes for today's podcast may be found at theprepperpodcast.com/039. You can also find the show notes at theprepperpodcast.com/small battery bank uses. That's small battery bank uses. Now, Jay Bradbury is not here for our news segment, but I do have a little piece of news that I stumbled across. Okay? It is that 33% of Americans have RFID chips. Most of those are unknown. Most people don't know about it. But 33% of Americans were found to have RFID chips in their body by a new study that was done by the Wyoming Institute of Technology. On the show notes, that is theprepperpodcast.com/039 or /small battery bank uses. I have a link to the study that was done. And most of these people had no idea that they had these chips. And a lot of them was either in dental work or the back of the hand. So if it holds true, that means that you could have one. And they talk about how you can get medical professionals with strong RFID readers to, you can get them to scan you for an RFID chip. And then there's also the self-scan that you can do for RFID chips, but the consumer grade scanners aren't quite as strong. So that is your little news segment. I did not vet out. I mean, this was from an institute. So it was a legitimate study that was done, but it was on 3 different groups. And I'm not sure the total number of people. It may have been about 2,000 or 3,000 people. But it was 3 different groups, and in the 3 different groups, 33% of all the people had the RFID chips. Now, isn't that scary? Now for the housekeeping. If you would like to be a guest, go to theprepperpodcast.com/guests and fill out the form. If you would like to provide feedback, but you do not want to be a guest, you want a smaller amount of feedback, I would appreciate it if all of your feedback would come in the listener hotline. That is 978 knows it. That is 978 knows it. That's also 978-566-9748. Or visit my website and click the green banner on the right-hand side. You'll get a pop-up, and that pop-up will allow you to record from the microphone on your computer. Now for the discussion. Like I told you guys, I am going to be talking about mostly realistic ideas for your alternative energy sources, your alternative energy uses, your battery bank uses, that kind of thing. The first use is going to be a typical use. It is backup power on your home. Backup power for your home. I do not believe in having a $40,000 solar system on your roof that will power everything that you normally consume. I don't believe in that. If you like to have that kind of thing, that is fine. That is your decision, and I will not judge anybody who does that because guess what? They have a very strong, resilient power source. But do you have a year's supply of food? If you don't have a year's supply of food, all the solar power in the world is not going to help you. Now, so the backup power on your home, this is going to be a smaller amount of power. It's going to be a smaller system, and the whole point is backup power. So it's going to be much smaller. It's going to be, thousands of watts. It's not going to be 15,000 watts or anything like that. It's going to be 2,000 to 3,000 watts, things like that. So your backup power on your home, that is the first thing. The next thing is one that I really want to try is the RV. You can have solar panels on your RV. I really like solar for this. Throw solar panels on your RV, have a propane tank on your RV, and be able to consume methane in your RV. A lot of the things in an RV can be used. You can use propane on a lot of the stuff. You can create your electric power from solar. Now, most RVs, or most, let's not say RV, let's talk camper here. Kind of the same idea, but a camper, most of them, you have a thing that's called like an RV charger or a camper charge kit or whatever, and all it is a diode. But that diode doesn't keep you from overcharging the batteries. So what you do is you will put the SunForce solar smart chargers. You'll attach one of those to your battery, and then you will attach another one to your solar panels, and then you have your vehicle charging from one end. You'll have solar panels charging from the other end, and your batteries will keep a good charge. And these SunForce solar chargers are smart chargers. So what? They do not destroy your battery. They actually perform maintenance on your battery, which is great for battery life. So, RVs are a really good option for using solar, propane, and methane, okay? A lot of devices inside an RV run off of propane already. All you have is you have a propane tank on the front or back of it. Most of them actually have a mount for that. And a lot of them have a mount on the inside. Like a camper usually has it on the outside. An RV will probably have your propane tank on the inside. Make sure that if you're going to use a propane tank that you get a couple extra because you don't want to run out. All right. I know that propane is not an alternative energy source, but we're talking RVs here. You want to have that propane source as well. And creating methane is a really good way of cooking. So if you have anything that's natural gas, like a natural gas burner, or if you have like a deep fryer or something like that, like a turkey fryer or something, a lot of that will run straight off of methane, and you can produce methane. Just like I said in my last podcast, you can produce methane from the decomposition of organic matter. Another really great thing to use solar or alternative energy for is a hunting cabin. I mean, think about a hunting cabin right beside a river using micro hydro, or one that's you've got a clearing in the forest and you put your cabin there and you get a lot of sun. You can throw some solar panels on it. And then if you've got one in the mountains or something like that, then you're going to be able to use wind power. So a hunting cabin is a great thing to have power on. And you don't have to worry about tying it to the grid, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So a hunting cabin is actually a really good thing to have all of these alternative off-grid systems. So I guess this would actually be better labeled as off-grid system uses. So these are uses of all of these different alternative energies other than grid systems, because it's going to be cheaper to use one of these off-grid systems than it is to even run the cable to have grid tie to it. So a hunting cabin is a really good option. Now think about this. We're talking about hunting cabins, cabins and camping and stuff like that. Cell phone chargers while you're camping in your tents. They have small solar panels that are used for charging your cell phones. I prefer a small solar panel going to a small battery, okay, so that even when you don't have solar power, you've still got that small battery. And this would be a good use of the gel cell batteries that I talked about a few episodes ago when I was talking about all the different types of batteries. If you put a small gel cell battery on a small solar panel and a little bitty charger or something like that, you're going to have a really robust cell phone charging kit. All right, so that's another good one. Putting it on your chicken coop. So for all you homesteaders that like to have chickens, putting a single 100-watt solar panel on your chicken coop, sending that to one marine battery with a 7 to 10 amp solar charger, putting that on that battery going to a 1 to 200 watt inverter, and in that inverter powering a single lamp inside the chicken coop. And then it can also power, this is my favorite idea, and it's a really cool idea, is you can use like an old Oldsmobile antenna drive. You can actually use the antenna itself, okay? Use the antenna to drive the coop door open and close. So you can have this antenna on a, let's say, you're going to have to put it on a delay timer. That would be the best way to do it. And it's probably going to be easiest for the average person to just put it on a clock timer. But if you have a little bit of an electrical background and you kind of understand this kind of stuff, you can put it on a solar sensor, and then that solar sensor will trigger. Now, as the sun's going down, the solar sensor is going to go on and off, on and off, on and off a lot. And instead of having it move your coop door up and down with this antenna, which is a direct drive, you've got this antenna going in and out, and it's going to be directly connected to your door. So instead of your door just going up and down, up and down, up and down the entire time, it's going to be easy for you to just go ahead and put a little delay timer in there. So if you just have like a couple second delay timer, then it's going to keep most of this up and down stuff going on. It's going to stop most of that. So your sun will actually have to be down, and this thing can't be triggering back and forth, and your door will finally go down, and it'll keep your little girls safe at night from all those predators. And then in the morning when the sun comes up, then it's going to come up. All right? So that's how you could do the coop. The next one I really like is the storm shelter. I've done this system. I've shown videos of this system at my house. You use like a couple GC2 batteries from Sam's Club or whatever. Throw those on. I've got about 250. I think I got 250 watts of solar panels, and it's charging 2 GC2 batteries using a 10 amp SunForce charger, which I could use a little bit bigger of a charger, but this is about all I need is the 10 amp SunForce charger. And then that is just running a bunch of Christmas lights throughout the entire storm shelter. And then we can run small fans and stuff like that to keep some air circulation going. And I actually plan on using it to run some computer fans. I want to run some computer fans so that I can keep airflow in there to keep the moisture down and to allow me to utilize it as a root cellar. Because as you keep the moisture down, then, you can use it as a root cellar. There will be a lot less decay for your roots. And then it's also I'll put a screen on there to keep the bugs out and stuff like that as well. So a root cellar is a really good idea. If you've got a root cellar, you'll be able to use a fan to blow through and stuff like that. But you want it to be, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I'm pretty sure that you want a low flow because you don't want your temperature inside to be the same as the temperature outside. You want your temperature inside to be the same temperature as the ground. Hence the whole reason for having a root cellar, because root plants and a lot of other plants will maintain longer if your root cellar is at ground temperature. Okay, that a lot of times, a lot of people will actually just keep their rooted vegetables and stuff like that in the ground until they're ready to harvest them. So a root cellar will do this for you as well. All right, so a shed or outbuilding. So you could run 110, you could run 220 out to your shed or your outbuilding, but for about the same amount of price, you could put a small solar panel and a battery on it. You could put like a marine battery or something like that, and a single solar panel. You could put that on your shed. Notice I'm not saying that you can put this on your shop. This is to bring power to a shed or an outbuilding, like an outhouse, that type of thing. This isn't for a shop, because you're probably not going to run a 220 volt table saw or something like that off of it. Okay, these are going to be low draw systems. So that's why we're talking about all these small systems being used all over the place. The next one would be portable power in your home. To go right along with the emergency power thing, if you have a marine battery on your table and it's constantly being charged by your Schumacher charger, if you need power somewhere, you can just grab the battery by the handle with an inverter, and you can take it wherever you need power. This is a really cool idea if you have an electric chainsaw. Now remember, your electric chainsaws are going to pull a lot of juice, so you won't be able to use them very far or very long, but instead of dragging an extension cord out, you can have this. This would also work with plug-in drills and stuff like that. I mean, it's going to work wonders. It's going to do a really good job for you, and it's going to be extremely portable. Now, talking about portable banks, using an automotive bank. So having a bank in your vehicle. Now remember, I've already told you guys that I don't recommend you keeping batteries in a car unless you can bolt them down. So I do recommend you having some kind of bank in your vehicle if you can bolt them down. If you have a Prius or something like that, you already have a battery bank in there, but it's a different type of battery. And the really cool thing about the Prius is if you turn it on, it regulates the voltage to the battery at all times for nominal power. So as you deplete your battery bank and you're charging your battery bank off the car's battery bank, the car will turn itself on and off to maintain the juice in those batteries, thereby maintaining the juice in your battery bank. So that's actually a pretty cool idea to throw some extra deep cycle batteries into like a Prius or something. But if you're in a truck, you've got an even better hookup. If you're in a truck, you can put this thing in a toolbox. You put this in a toolbox, you bolt it down, it ain't moving anywhere. You open up the toolbox, bam, you've got yourself a light. The light already comes on, and you can see all the tools in the toolbox and stuff like that, and you don't have to worry about anything. The light's there. You got all your power tools right beside your battery bank. You can plug them in. I've already talked about this stuff. You can have this stuff in an automobile. Speaking of automobiles, I'm going to segue over into four-wheelers. You can throw a marine battery on a four-wheeler for a little bit of power out there. Think about this. If you are a hunter and you go close to where your stand is, and you're not far from your stand, and you shoot a deer, well, if you want to gut that deer, you can do it. You gut it right there. Now, what's really cool is if you want to do more processing right there, you want to cut it. Like, let's just say you want to hack it and take a leg off, take all the legs off, cut the body in half, pull the ribs, get the back straps, the main big parts. If you want to do all that and you have a cooler there, well, if you've got this marine battery, then they got those little rotary knives, right? The electric knives that'll just cut through just about anything. Those things are really great for sawing through stuff. So using something like that is going to be really cool. Or you can plug in, and there are portable options for this, but you could also plug in your Sawzall and cut right through the bone and stuff like that real easy too. So for your four-wheelers and for hunting and stuff like that, having this alternative power is a really great option. Another thing is solar sump pumps or wind turbine sump pumps, things like that. Okay, I've already talked about the fact that you can use a windmill to turn a pump for your well or for a sump or something like that. But if you want something on a float and not based on your wind, then let's say you're making electricity and you're using electricity for those pumps. Well, if you've got a small solar array or a small windmill or two for those pumps specifically, and you've got a couple batteries right there, well, then your pump is going to be able to operate and function at all times, and it's going to be able to keep everything nice and dry. You'll want to keep a light on this, like an LED light that you can see from your window or that you can see in a hallway or something if it's in the basement, because you want to make sure that you have power to these sump pumps. So now the only failure point would be your sump pump without you knowing it. Okay, now that's always a failure point that you may not know about until it's too late. But as far as the electronics, you're going to see that light either on or off, so you're going to be good there. All right, so that's sump pumps and well pumps. The next thing you're going to use it for, and I think this is going to be a pretty quick one because I'm going through it real quick because, I don't know, I seem to enjoy this episode. But the next thing would be electro-fencing. All right, this is actually on the market today. People are buying this stuff, and it's a good idea. You just have a small solar panel, and you've got a small battery, and you hook your electro-fencing to it. It's just going to be a small battery with a little inverter, and I don't even think it's got to be 100 watts, but you're going to plug your fence. You're going to plug your fence right into that inverter, and now you've got electro-fencing around. So electro-fencing is actually another really good way to use this. What it'll allow you to do is it'll allow you to have these on each end. You're going to be able to use multiple units. So if one unit goes down, you've got electro-fencing still throughout the whole thing. So you can basically put these units kind of in parallel and make sure that you've got power to your electro-fencing, keeping all your animals inside. All right, so another one would be walkway and spot lamps. Now, we've already talked about these before, and this is another thing that is already on the market. All right, the first thing would be the walkway lanterns. These have these little tiny solar panels on them, and they charge 1 AA or 1 to 2 AAA batteries, okay? And that battery, that AA battery, runs an LED bulb, and it'll run that one battery will run your LED bulb almost all night long. If it has a good charge, it will run it all night long till the next morning. But most walkways are underneath trees and stuff like that, so you're not going to get the best charge. However, it's a really good option to have these LED walkway lights, and or they're called path lights or path lighting or whatever you want to call them. They are a really good option, and I really like using those. And I'll talk about that again here in a few minutes. The spot lamps. Spot lamps are basically the same thing. It's a spotlight. It's you take basically the function of the walkway lantern and you make it a little bit brighter, and you use a spotlight type setup. So they've got these little bitty solar panels on them. They're LED as well, and then they have a soft glow spotlight that'll light up your the front of your house and stuff like that. Now, if you think about it, having walkway lamps is one thing, but having spotlights all over the front of your house is also a security thing. It will allow you, it will keep your house lit up, and there's less chance that people are going to want to try to break into your house, at least from the front. But I would put these spotlights all around my house. All right. I don't have any of these yet, but you know what? When I get done with this podcast, I'm at least going to go buy a few because I've been meaning to put those in front of my house. So, but that's okay. If you're listening to this, don't you worry. Just because I don't have a spotlight on my house doesn't mean I don't have a big dog that'll take your leg off, and I don't have a shotgun that'll meet you right in the face. All right. So do not attempt anything just because I don't have a spotlight. All right, but I'm going to get some spotlights. All right, now there's a new product that I heard about, and I looked it up and read about it, and it's a really cool product. It is a solar walkway light, or the solar path light. This thing is also a bug zapper. Okay, so I'm going to put these all over the deck on the back of my house. I'm going to put it all around, because not only are these bug zapper lamps going to give some light because it's a bright LED light that attracts all the bugs, but it's also got a little zapper in it that's going to kill all the mosquitoes and stuff. And unfortunately, the deck of my house is beside my air conditioner, which also has a drain, and a draining air conditioner is going to leave a puddle that attracts mosquitoes and larvae. So I'm going to put these in my backyard. I really like the idea of having a bug zapper lantern right there beside my house. I don't want to put them all over my yard because a lot of insects are beneficial, but I don't like mosquitoes and they're all over around my back deck, and I'm not going to do that. All right, so the next thing that you can use is air conditioning. What? You can use this for air conditioning, huh? What the heck are you going to do? Air conditioning draws a lot of power. How are you going to use let's say a solar panel or a small wind turbine? How are you going to use that to do air conditioning? Because that's a huge load. Well, the idea is that you only have to power the fan going into it, and you have to power the ice maker. What? An ice maker? Yes, that's right. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to grab a 5-gallon bucket, you're going to have an ice maker, and that ice maker is going to create the ice because it is more efficient to create ice than it is to create cold air. So we will make ice. We will fill the 5-gallon bucket up with the ice, and then that 5-gallon bucket will have a hole in it with a fan going to it. And then, if possible, you put a smaller bucket in it to redirect all the air the right way. The smaller bucket is going to just kind of act as an inner shroud to redirect that air, like I said, but it'll direct the air through the ice. And then you basically, on the other side, are going to get really cold air coming out of this bucket. So it's like a 5-gallon bucket air conditioner. So I think it's a really cool idea. Another really cool idea is Wi-Fi extenders. So if you want to be able to use Wi-Fi around your entire yard, or if you have a large property and you want to be able to use Wi-Fi throughout parts of your property, because let's say, I don't know, you have a Wi-Fi enabled security light or a Wi-Fi enabled security camera, right? If you have that, then these Wi-Fi extenders are awesome. And you'll be able to see these cameras go down if one of them fails or something like that. But you can have Wi-Fi extenders throughout your property, and all those extenders can be connected to your router at home, and now you've got Wi-Fi going throughout the place. Of course, you're going to encrypt it so that you don't have people trying to get onto your Wi-Fi, but that's a really cool idea. You put a single solar panel there with a small battery, and you just power up this Wi-Fi extender. All right, and if it goes dead, well, you'll see the camera go out, because you'll no longer have Wi-Fi. So then you can find out whether it's a battery that went bad or if it's just dead or what. So that was the last thing. And I know this is a short episode, and I kind of wanted it to be that way. I did go through a long list of things. These are just common sense things that you could just think about. It's the whole critical thinking part of it. I want to instill critical thinking in everybody, right? So these are just some quick and dirty ideas. Let me go back to the RV thing. The reason why that one was on here is because I really would like to use either an RV or a camper as my studio on the go. I would love to have a mobile studio, and then I'm going to have it stocked up so it's also a bug-out RV as well. All right, and that would be my way of getting out of the house so my loud kids aren't making a lot of noise and stuff like that. An RV would be a great option for a little mobile studio. I like that idea, even though my wife really doesn't. She thinks that having a camper or an RV out front would be an eyesore. And I said, I don't give a crap what the neighbors think. I want this camper or RV, and I want my mobile studio. So, this being the case, I guess you can look forward to a post, not in the near future, but in some future post. Look forward to a post of me showing off my new camper or RV and doing a review on it. All that being said, this is the end of the show. So, with that, this was Ken Jensen of ThePrepperPodcast.com, teaching you strategies on self-reliance so that you can build a more resilient and a more enjoyable life. Have a wonderful week, and make sure that you don't have any RFID chips in you. This is Ken, signing out.